Born in 2007. That means Franco Mastantuono is younger than the iPhone, younger than Instagram, younger than most of the memes you share. But at just 16, he's already River Plate's youngest ever goalscorer and has a €45 million release clause. Argentina thinks they've found their next Messi. Javier Saviola held River Plate's record as the youngest goalscorer for over 20 years. Then came Franco Mastantuono, a 16-year-old kid who didn't just break the record, he shattered it. Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Manchester City are already fighting over him. Can he handle being called the next Messi? Every left-footed Argentine kid gets the same impossible burden. You're the next Messi. It's destroyed careers, crushed dreams, and broke promises. But Franco Mastantuono, at 16, he's already doing things that make you believe the hype might actually be real this time. If Argentina does one thing better than almost anyone, it's producing legends, and then spending years searching for the next one. The quest never stops, the pressure can be suffocating, and honestly, a little cruel. Any left-footed kid with a nice touch gets the headline treatment, the next Messi. Then comes the crash. The weight of unfair expectations breaks more careers than it builds. So, what about Franco? Why might this time be different? When you're talking about someone born on August 14, 2007, you're talking about Generation Z, a teenager still in school-level years, already making history on massive stages. At 17 and 296 days, he became the youngest official debutant in Argentina's history, breaking a long-standing national record. Let that sink in. This teenager is already smashing marks in a country that produced some of the greatest to ever play the game. Franco's story starts in Azul, Buenos Aires province, not Buenos Aires City, not Rosario, not a media capital. A smaller town where dreams can feel both more unlikely and more urgent. Here's the twist. As a kid, he was a national-level youth tennis player, reportedly top 10 in his category. Tennis! If he'd stuck with it, we might be discussing the next Nadal, not the next Messi. His father, a coach at River de Azul, introduced him to football at age 3. At the same time, Franco was competing in tennis tournaments, earning a name across youth circuits. Picture toddler Franco choosing between a racket and a ball. Somewhere out there, football owes a thank you to whoever nudged him toward the pitch. That dual sport background shines through in how he plays: spatial awareness, balance, coordination, and an instinct for quick, high-pressure decision-making. It's the toolbox of a playmaker who thrives in tight spaces. His family mattered, but they weren't stage parents. They loved tennis. They loved discipline. They supported what he loved most. In the end, football had his heart, so they backed the choice. Joining River Plate's academy isn't like joining your local club. It's entering a football university with a global reputation. The competition is brutal, the standards unforgiving. Most never graduate. Franco did more than that. From 2019 to 2014, he rose through the ranks. The academy staff describe a kid who wasn't just technically special, but mentally unusual, analytical, composed, unafraid of pressure. He didn't flinch on bigger stages, he accelerated. Then came the moment that changed everything. In the Copa Argentina, he scored his first official senior goal against Excursionistas. At 16 years, 5 months, and 24 days, he became River's youngest ever goalscorer, shattering a record held by Javier Saviola. That matters. Saviola's mark wasn't random. It belonged to one of Argentina's most gifted prodigies, a star of Barcelona and the national team. Franco didn't just sneak past it, he smashed it. After more than 2 decades, a new name sat at the top. When that goal went in, you could feel the electricity. River fans, people who've seen countless great youngsters come and go, knew they were witnessing something different. So, what makes Franco Mastantuono so magnetic on a pitch? Why are scouts from Europe's biggest clubs moving mountains for a teenager? Start with the left foot. Close control, slaloming dribbles, and a whip-crack strike that bends and dips like it's got its own weather system. His ball striking looks unfair. But the superpower isn't the highlight reel stuff. it's the decisions. This is a teenager who plays like he's got a decade in senior football. He pauses when others panic, releases when others force it, and sees angles most players don't notice. He's a modern throwback, a classic Argentine enganche, part playmaker, part second striker, part magician. He drifts wide to create overloads, drops deep to dictate tempo, then ghosts forward to finish moves. In a sport obsessed with systems, he brings improvisation with purpose. The technicals are there. First touch, tight space dribbling, disguise on passes. But the standout is his game intelligence. He chooses the right moments, he wastes little, and he carries himself with a calm that feels older than his years. We have to confront it. He's Argentine, left-footed, low center of gravity, glides past people, creates and scores, and loves a free kick. Of course, the Messi comparisons came. They were inevitable. But calling someone the next Messi has ended more careers than it launched. The pressure is ridiculous. Messi is Messi, a once-in-forever force of talent, longevity, and competitive rage. Expecting anyone to duplicate that is unfair. Look at the long list of next Messis who wilted beneath the label. It doesn't mean they weren't gifted, it means the label is corrosive. It reduces a teenager's growth into a binary, Messi or failure. Franco seems to understand that. Asked about the comparison, he doesn't bite. He doesn't promise the impossible or posture for the cameras. He talks about writing his own story, about being the first Franco Mastantuono. That's maturity, the kind that protects a career as much as it elevates it. Yes, the similarities exist: left foot, balance, ability to operate in traffic, killer final third instincts, but Franco's path is his own, with a broader passing palette at this age, a bit more physicality, and a willingness to defend that makes modern coaches purr. He doesn't need to be the next Messi, he needs to be the best version of Franco. Just as he was fully igniting at River, Real Madrid moved. When Madrid sign a teenager from South America, it isn't on a whim. It means their scouts, analysts, and coaches see not just talent, but trajectory. The fee was massive for a player so young, and the plan was deliberate. This wasn't a throw him in and hope transfer. Madrid tailored the timeline to protect his development, integrating him step by step, not feeding him to the wolves. For Franco, the move is validation and escalation at the same time. River fans knew what he was. Argentina knew what he was. Now he has to prove it on the most unforgiving stage in club football, under the brightest lights, in a team where even young stars fight for air. Madrid can be a machine that crushes or a forge that creates. The difference comes down to timing, minutes, mentorship, and the player's own strength. Franco's challenge begins now. Recognition by Argentina's senior team arrived early and emphatically. He made his international debut in a 1-0 win over Chile, becoming the youngest official debutant in Argentina's history at 17 years and 296 days. No charity minutes, no ceremonial cameos. Real football, real stakes. It mattered, and it fit. Lionel Scaloni doesn't hand caps to teenagers as PR exercises. He rewards profiles he believes can help a system that just won everything. In subsequent minutes, Franco looked like he belonged, composed, options-oriented, and expressive without waste. Project forward and the picture gets exciting, with Garnacho's explosiveness, Enzo Fernandez's metronome, and Julian Alvarez's movement. Argentina have the spine for another decade. A left-footed creator who can knit that attack together? That's a role Franco could make his own. Let's be honest about the obstacles, because for every prodigy who becomes a superstar, there are a dozen who get lost along the way. Physicality and durability. European football is brutal. The pace, the collisions, the schedule. It asks a lot of a body still developing. The training load must be precise. The minutes must be managed. Mental pressure. Madrid's spotlight magnifies everything. A dip in form becomes a crisis. A poor month becomes a narrative. Social media will overreact to every touch. Learning to insulate him from the noise is as important as any tactical detail. Adaptation. New country, new language, new dressing room, distance from family, different food, rhythms, expectations. These things don't appear on a stat sheet, but they do decide careers. Career management. the right minutes in the right competitions, a coach who trusts him, a pathway that builds responsibility without drowning him in it. The first 2 years in Europe are make or break for how a prodigy matures. The good news? Early signs suggest he has the temperament. He carries himself like a grown-up. He speaks about learning, not stardom, and the people around him seem focused on the long game, development over dopamine. Before Madrid finalized the deal, all the usual giants were sniffing around. United, Chelsea, PSG, Barcelona. That level of attention tells you what professionals think of his ceiling. Clubs don't mobilize scouting departments for maybe, they do it for must. Madrid's South American track record helped, from Di Stefano's legacy to the modern pipeline that fostered Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. They know how to surround electric teenagers with structure, demands, and a ladder to the very top. That reputation matters to players and to their families, but the badge cuts both ways. It's a launch pad and a crucible. The shirt is heavy. The Bernabeu applauds brilliance and remembers everything. Franco's task is to make that weight feel like armor, not chains. Here's what keeps me thinking about Franco. The pressure is already immense, and he hasn't even lived a full season in Europe. Debates rage daily. Better than Messi? Overhyped? Every training clip becomes a referendum. Most 17-year-olds are worried about exams, first jobs, or first loves. Franco is juggling 8-figure transfer fees, legacy comparisons, and the expectations of two of the most demanding fan bases on earth. That isn't normal, and it isn't easy. Some players thrive in that storm. Mbappe, Haaland, others, well, they fade. Franco's temperament suggests he can make it. The real test arrives with adversity, a bad run, an injury, a big miss in a big game. That's when you learn who someone really is. His circle will matter. Families and mentors who still see the boy from Azul who could have been a tennis pro, who keep him grounded, remind him of work, protect him from noise, could be the invisible edge that sustains him. So, who is Franco Mastantuono? The real deal? Or just the latest chapter in football's endless hype machine? Cautious optimism feels right. The talent is obvious. The football IQ is ahead of schedule. The mentality looks sturdy, not showy. And the Madrid move is timed with care, young enough to grow, seasoned enough to compete. Internationally, he's already introduced himself. If he earns trust in Madrid and keeps his place in Argentina's plans, he could define the next decade of the sport, not as a copy of anyone, but as the first Franco. The gap between potential and achievement, though, is enormous. The next 2 years are everything. Can he adapt to European intensity? Can he manage the pressure? Can he keep improving physically and emotionally while the world insists on instant greatness? I think he can. He has more than tricks. He has timing, temperament, and taste, the hard-to-teach elements that separate talented from transformational. Since Messi began to age, Argentina has searched and searched and searched. They might finally have found not the next Messi, but something rarer, something new. Franco Mastantuono has the tools: technical excellence, tactical intelligence, emotional control. But tools aren't trophies. The difference between promise and legacy will be carved in training grounds, in the quiet hours, in choices about rest, recovery, and humility. Madrid will test him, Europe will test him, so will the shirt of Argentina, heavy with history. But the way he plays and the way he talks suggests he welcomes the test. He doesn't need to be the next Messi, he needs to be the best Franco Mastantuono. That might be more than enough. The most thrilling part of this story is that it's just beginning. At 17, he's already done things most professionals never do. Now, the real exam starts, in Madrid, under lights that don't blink. Franco Mastantuono reminds us that dreams still break through, that kids from small towns still climb mountains, and that sometimes the hype might just be right. So, what do you think? Can Franco handle the weight of being Argentina's next big thing? Is he the heir to Messi's throne? Or should we finally stop chasing the next Messi and let him write his own legend? Drop your take in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into football's brightest prospects, hit like, subscribe for more, and ring the bell so you never miss a story.